Drum hacks, they've been around since forever, so I want to test out some of the hacks they did back in the day and see why they have or haven't survived the test of time. Drum shells, there's four main materials that they're made out of: wood, metal, acrylic, and fiberglass, with wood being the most common. But for some drummers, plain old wood, it wasn't good enough for them. They would take a wooden shell and add fiberglass to the inside to make it sound subjectively better.
The effect, of course, is to increase reflectiveness of the interior of the drum. And as a result, it increases dramatically the type of overtones and projection that the drum has.
The term Vibra-Fibing was the name coined by the Indiana Percussion Center, who actually did this process, and they were the ones that Vibra-Fied Neil Peart's Tama kit and Snare kit. This process, it was a fun one. I started by plugging the holes so that the resin doesn't leak into them. I just cut up a magic eraser since it's all I had, and that actually worked out really good. Then I bought a little fiberglass repair kit and cut a strip of the fabric oversized to fit in between the re-rings of the shell, mixed up the resin, and went to town. And if we need more proof about this process, in the 70s, Pearl had a wood fiberglass kit, which they later reissued in 2015 for a little bit. And in the early 2000s, Pearl introduced the carbon core marching drums, which are still around today. And after I got the last section of fabric down, I went back and did a final coat of just resin to really seal it in. And as far as acoustics go, it's the resin that's hardening up that makes the shell more reflective, and not so much the fabric. The fabric just adds strength, I guess. And once that was dried, I trimmed off the excess, peeled off the tape, drilled through the fiberglass, and put the drum back together. The plain wooden shell weighs 1 pound, 5.7 ounces, and with the fiberglass, it gained a bit over 4 ounces in weight. And just to see the difference, here's the tone of the shell before and after. Would I recommend this? If you're bored and have an old beater kit, then maybe, but to do a full kit would take a lot of time and a lot of effort. If you're into fiberglass, just buy a fiberglass kit. If you're into wood and fiberglass, just buy an old Pearl wood fiberglass kit. Or you can do what John Bonham did and line your bass drum with aluminum foil to make it more reflective. Shout out to my mom and grandpa who used to work at Reynolds Metals here in Richmond, the company that used to make Reynolds Wrap before they got bought out. I guess their kitchen is still here though. Sounds Like a Drum did a video about this already, and apparently it works really well. But the question of whether Bonham actually did this is still up for debate. There's a forum post on ledzeppelin.com that says it's a myth and he never did it. Then there's another guy on another forum that read about it in a Led Zeppelin book, but he didn't mention the book. But either way, we're gonna test this out. I don't think acrylic is the best for this test because it's already smooth. So that means we need a wooden shell. I used the wrong tape. The foil made just the slightest change in sound and cut a little bit of the high end, making the naked shell a bit more slappy and a bit more tubey. For me though, it wasn't really worth it and I'll probably never do it again. And don't worry, all that foil will be reused. It works great for cleaning old crusty hardware. Cymbals! More specifically, broken cymbals. Also, check this out. Subscribe! I remember the first nice cymbal I ever bought was a 20-inch Z Custom Crash I bought off a dude on Craigslist for 80 bucks, and when that thing broke, I was devastated. It started as a small little crack along the edge, and it grew so much that eventually I just broke it off and turned it into this 17.5-inch egg cymbal, which actually is the cymbal I use for the 100 rivet cymbal. Now that cymbal I could have saved a little bit longer because I decided to research after the fact if you could repair a broken cymbal, and everything I saw and everyone I talked to said to just drill a hole at the end of the crack and that should stop it from growing. And to help this thing as much as I can, I'll take a countersink and clean up the edges of the holes. I stole Bryce's cymbal bag. He has to have something in here. No cracks in this one. That might be a little too far gone. Here we go. 1, 2, 3 cracks. The thing about this process is it's just temporary, and 9 times out of 10, the crack will just come right back. See what I mean? Someone tried to repair this, but it just kept going. It will buy you some time, but a better way to do it is just to cut out like an oval so the crack is completely gone. And even that will crack over time, but it should last a little bit longer than just drilling out the ends. Going back to this cymbal. In the past, I drilled this out for rivets because this cymbal is very trashy as is, especially with this crack now. But on the topic of rivets, you can buy regular cymbal rivets. But if you want a more heavier, rivety sounding cymbal, you can use these things called Chicago bolts, which are a bit heavier. Or if you want the opposite and want a lighter sounding rivet, you can go to the hardware store and buy these things. There are these little tiny brass ferrule things, I think for compression fittings, but you can get like a 10-pack of these for like 18 cents. Just throw them in the holes, then with some pliers give them a little squeeze, and those things ain't going anywhere. The main problem with doing it this way is most of the time the cymbal will still sound like it's cracked because the edges are still touching each other. But sometimes, like with this china, you'll get lucky and can't tell that it is cracked. Or if the cymbal is too far gone or you don't really care about it, you can play into that sound and use it as a stack or add rivets or anything to accentuate that sound. Tea towels, the oldest trick in the book. Ringo Starr is probably the one most closely affiliated with this sound. Whenever you hear someone talk about Ringo sound, they always mention tea towels. Apparently he would just borrow them from the studio cafeteria, but I bought the cheapest ones I could find, so these are not Ringo spec tea towels. If you're going for that dead, muted, and muffled drum sound, then tea towels definitely work. Next hack. Imagine a disc mounted underneath this snare, like right here, so whenever you hit the drum, the sound bounces off of it and back into the drum. This one's been forgotten over time, but mustache legend Jake Reed posted a clip on Instagram where he had a wooden disc under his snare. And I also remember seeing this old ad for this thing that mounts on the snare drum, which I guess does the same thing. This was back when I was in like middle school, so I really don't remember what this thing was called. So I'm gonna test having a wooden disc closer to the drum and then compare that to having a larger disc underneath of the stand. So for the small one, I'm gonna cheat because I already have some wooden discs. Look at that, a perfectly cut plywood disc. Oh man, who can tell me what this is from? And actually, this one will probably work for the bottom. I chose the driest sounding snare that I have in hopes that it would liven up some, but maybe it was too dry because there's only a very subtle change. So take a listen with the soloed unprocessed snare mics and let me know what you think. I do have one more idea on a better way to test this though. Pretend this is upside down. Oh, there we go. It's adjustable. I like the old version better. You can use it like a table.